Toysor, and today I'm finally reviewing one of the wildest episodes from Miraculous Season 6 so far, that being episode 13, Yaksi Gozen. I think this is easily the most interesting episode from this season that doesn't specifically relate to the Marinette hiding Monarch's identity plotline, since it focuses more on the present villains, including Chrysalis, Tomoe, and The Kingdom, as well as being the only episode in this series that very explicitly and directly references the Sentimonster kids being Sentimonsters. And with everything that happens in Yaksi Gozen, I am even more concerned for Adrien's safety with the fact that he is unaware the twin rings are his lifeline. Spoiler warning for Miraculous Season 6 episode 13 Yaksi Gozen, let's get into it. Yaksi Gozen is centered around Tomoe Tsurugi trying to regain control of Kagami, since she doesn't approve of nor trust Félix around her daughter. And the way Kagami transforms into Ryuko to not only protect her ring but scold her mother is iconic.
I promised her that you'd change, and she trusted me! Enough to hide what you and Gabriel and Dress did from the whole world! Enough to leave me the Dragon Miraculous knowing I live under the same roof as you!
Especially after rewatching the series, Kagami has definitively become one of my favorite characters. So to see this representation of her growth from quietly obedient to loudly defiant is fantastic. I also generally love Ryuko's design, so it was really nice to see her featured not only here, but in the akumatization fight, including a transformation sequence. One of the craziest things we learned from Yaksi Gozen is the reason behind Kagami and her mother moving to Paris all the way back in Riposte from season 2. Gabriel Agreste calls Tomoe Tsurugi, asking her for help with retrieving Ladybug and Cat Noir's Miraculous, which Tomoe only agrees to in exchange for setting up Kagami with a boy that is
smart, strong, handsome, and obedient.
Someone like my son.
It's wild that Tomoe Tsurugi directly collaborating with Monarch is something that has now been contextualized as early as season 2. While I'm fairly certain this wasn't the plan when Kagami was introduced, though it may have existed conceptually, to see this collaboration outlined much earlier in the series at a time before any other Miraculous besides the Black Cat, Ladybug, and Butterfly were being used is kind of insane. It was already pretty heavily alluded to that Adrien and Kagami were paired together by their parents as some sort of deal between them.
Made for each other, just as planned.
I know back then, with them being made for each other, I kind of assumed this deal happened while they were creating their kids with the Peacock Miraculous, to specifically create their children as future partners. However, I think it is more generally that each of them designed their children to be perfect, and that's why Adrien was chosen as Kagami's perfect match in the deal we see in Yaksi Gozen. Seeing Kagami with her design from Riposte at the end of this flashback filled me with such a strong sense of nostalgia and overprotectiveness. Like, look at her precious little face. This girl is still at a point in her life where she's hyper obedient to her mother and is about to face so much heartache and hurt. Especially because we know from the Tokyo special, she's being ripped away from her first friends and the first boy she fell in love with. This poor girl. It's another reason why Kagami yelling at her mother and standing up for herself is such an effective communication of her growth. Another small thing we learn here is that Tomoe has robotic eyes, and it's implied that the reason she lost her original eyes is that it was the price she paid for using the damaged Peacock Miraculous to create Kagami. Whether she can see out of those false eyes or not, I don't think is particularly relevant, at least not for now, but it is at minimum an indication that Tomoe has more to her than what exists on the surface. This represents the way Tomoe is still secretly working to obtain the Miraculous through her membership in the Kingdom as the Machine. The other big thing stated in this flashback is that Gabriel using the wish to bring back Emily would betray the Kingdom, implying that Gabriel obtaining the Miraculous was a duty granted to him by the Kingdom through his role as the Diamond. The very end of Yaksi Gozen shows us that the Diamond is dead and in need of replacement, and introduces the new Diamond, the King of Luxury. We do actually learn who this new Diamond is, which I won't spoil here, but all of this is continuing to set up the Kingdom as the new big bad of the series, other than Lila as Chrysalis. However, Chrysalis is also involved with the Kingdom, whether it be directly or indirectly. At minimum, Yaksi Gozen gives us more insight into Lila Rossi's direct collaboration with Tomoe Tsurugi. This episode came out before Vampagami, so first seeing them interact, it felt a bit more like a one-off transactional thing. However, Vampagami's ending makes it clear that there is some established partnership between Lila and Tomoe, and Yaksi Gozen is showcasing that partnership. The cold open for this episode takes place during the season 5 finale, where Gabriel stops following the plan he and Tomoe came up with together, leading her to call someone and tell them,
Gabriel has cut me off the system. His obsession may cause us to lose everything. Go to his mansion. Be my eyes and arms.
I feel like it's pretty clear this has to be Lila. Not only does the person that answers the phone somewhat sound like her, but in the finale, Lila breaks into Gabriel's mansion using Tomoe's laptop. Presumably this is how she recovered the butterfly miraculous, but now it seems likely she was also there for a specific mission set out by Tomoe. I've seen some people argue that it couldn't be Lila because she stole the laptop from Tomoe. However, I could very easily see a situation where Lila and Tomoe teamed up after being pushed aside by Gabriel, and Lila stealing the laptop was an indication of her skills and made Tomoe realize Lila would make a great asset. Surely Tomoe has some kind of Tsurugi brand AirTag on the laptop, and she was likely able to find Lila through it. Because Lila and Tomoe are working together so closely in season 6, it makes perfect sense that by the season 5 finale, Tomoe had a way to call upon Lila as a contingency if and when Gabriel went off the rails. A lot of people thought Yaksi Gozen also revealed that Lila is Tomoe's daughter since she calls her mother.
Hello, Mother.
But to me, this is clearly Lila mocking Tomoe after seeing Kagami be so violently disobedient, and especially with the context of this immediately following the Kagami flashback, it makes that mockery even more clear. Lila also refers to Kagami as Tomoe's favorite daughter, which could potentially support that she has another daughter in Lila, though I still don't think that makes any sense, since number one, we know how much Tomoe hated using the Peacock Miraculous to create Kagami, so the likelihood of her creating another child is practically non-existent. And number two, Lila's mom from Hero's Day is most clearly her actual mother, evidenced by Lila lying to her about the school being closed. Lila also refers to this lady from season 5 as her mom, and while it's like, cool, Lila has two moms, we never see those moms interact. In general, Lila's family situation is a weird mystery, and because of that, I could see there being some connection to Tomoe Tsurugi, but if Lila calling Tomoe mother and Kagami her favorite daughter is anything other than mockery, I think it's just a quirk of them working together. Maybe mother is an official title granted to Tomoe to represent their collaboration, or Tomoe is housing and providing for Lila as a sort of mother, and that's why Lila refers to her as such. I don't know, I'm still hung up on what happened to Lila's mom from season 2 because we have not seen her since. What is she doing while Lila is running around playing butterfly terrorist? Lila's collection of mothers aside, she transforms into Chrysalis and presents a plan to Tomoe to regain control of Kagami's life. And of course, with this being the official Chrysalis reveal, we have to talk about her design. There are some things I absolutely adore about it, and others I don't particularly care for. The biggest things that stand out as looking fantastic are the butterfly patterned nails and lips, and especially this insanely cool looking butterfly mask. The suit itself isn't particularly remarkable, but she does also have the butterfly pattern on her shirt, which looks nice. I've generally never been a fan of miraculous characters having multicolored eyes with very different sclera and iris colors. However, I think the bright green eyes contrast beautifully against the purple from the rest of the outfit, and it makes her feel more menacing. My least favorite part of Chrysalis's design is definitely her hair, but I don't hate it like a lot of other people do. I appreciate the vibe they're going for with making her look more mature and formal with this Lady Tremaine-esque style, but my biggest problem is how insanely big it makes her head look. This one shot of her sitting next to Tomoe effectively illustrates the way it makes her feel off balance and like she doesn't belong in the same space as the other characters. However, I don't think that's much of an issue, and Chrysalis's design is so cool otherwise that I can forgive it. First watching this episode, I thought the plan to kidnap Félix and swap the ring containing Azumuk with a false one in order to take control of him and have a spy within the Miraculars was insanely cool and clever, but rewatching it, why did they not just try this with Kagami? Tomoe tries to take Kagami's ring at the start and expresses frustration at not being able to control her because she doesn't have the ring, when Chrysalis suggests,
You might not be able to control her, but you could control the company she keeps.
However, the plan they lay out could have easily been used against Kagami instead, and then Tomoe could have the direct control of her daughter that she tried to seize earlier in the episode. What makes this especially frustrating is that when they execute the plan, Félix is literally holding Kagami's ring, which means they still could have taken it and regained control of Kagami. Perhaps they didn't have a fake ring to replace the real one since they were planning on taking Félix's, and that's why they opted to not take it, but despite it seeming so much more obvious to just take Kagami's ring, after thinking it through, the reason it ultimately makes a bit more sense to seize control of Félix is because he has the Peacock Miraculous. If Kagami's ring was replaced with a fake and she was being controlled by her real ring, Félix could probably sense the lack of a muck in the fake ring and expose the plot. If Félix is taken over, on the other hand, the Peacock Miraculous can't be used to suss out that he's being controlled. I do wish they explained this in the episode because it would have been so easy to just throw in a quick line about why it's important to take control of the Peacock Miraculous holder specifically, but criticisms aside, I still do think the plan to take control of Félix is still very clever and unsettling. On the topic of Félix, I think this episode is an an excellent showcase of everything that frustrates me about his character. I am eventually planning to do an entire video dedicated to how bad Felix's writing is, because he's a really cool character in concept, but the execution of his redemption is abysmal. He and Kagami go to Ladybug and ask her to hide their rings in her yo-yo to keep them safe, and Marinette hesitates because she
kept all the miraculous with me and my yo-yo, but that didn't stop Shadow Moth from stealing them from me.
That wasn't your fault.
You're right. It's not my fault. It's your fault!
Other than it vaguely being referenced in the fuck-ass play from Representation, this is the first time we've seen genuine remorse from Felix in regards to trading away the miraculous, despite the scene taking place after his supposed redemption. And he also hasn't faced any repercussions for this act. All we get is an explanation for his motives, as if that makes knowingly aiding a terrorist okay. Don't piss me off. As much as I think the little Felagami moments we've seen from season 6 have been really cute, I fear I still kinda hate this ship. This is mostly due to the fact that Felix's redemption is so poorly done, that Kagami forgiving and subsequently falling in love with him feels so out of character. And it really feels like, oh, Kagami couldn't have Adrien, so let's pair her with his identical twin cousin. I try my best to look at Felagami like Pixane from Lego Ninjago, because I initially rolled my eyes at them pairing Zane with another robot and him falling in love with the first robot lady he sees. However, Pixel and Zane understanding each other as robots, and Zane literally giving Pixel a piece of his heart, makes the relationship so much stronger on top of having compelling chemistry. Unfortunately for Felagami, it feels like the only reason they're paired together is because they're Sentimonsters, and it feels like they have no authentic chemistry otherwise. The concept of Kagami loving Felix so much that she trusts him with her life is cute, but it feels more like they wrote it such that she trusts him with her life and that's why she loves him, even though he's given her no reason to. There is no indication of why they fell in love outside of being Sentimonsters. There's one miraculous creator on TikTok that I really like, shout out Lizzie, who lives and breathes Felagami, and I'm like, good for you, girl. I just don't see it. I think it is by far the worst canon ship in the series. But far worse than Felagami is how badly the Sentimonster stuff is written. This episode is the first very explicit confirmation that Kagami is a Sentimonster, and it's stated as something we already know.
You know that our mothers carried us like any children, but since they used the Peacock Miraculous, our existences are bound by its magic, which makes us especially vulnerable.
While Felix was the most explicitly confirmed as a Sentimonster in Representation, Adrien and Kagami being confirmed as such in that same stupid play is done very indirectly. Adrien had been implied since season 4, and Kagami earlier in season 5 through Tomoe freaking out about Monarch letting an Akuma enter Kagami's ring. Emotion also implies the three of them as such, but the only actual confirmation we get is in Representation. Do you want to see the full clip that confirms Kagami is a Sentimonster?
Then the miraculous boy met a girl like him.
That's it! Another video I want to make that I might combine with the Felix video or make a two-parter is explaining and criticizing how abhorrently the Sentimonster plotline was handled. I have the most grief for Representation, but there are so many other things to talk about with how badly the reveal was treated, because the fact that people are still confused and claiming that Adrien isn't a Sentimonster despite it being 100% canon is aggravating. Speaking of Adrien, by far the biggest issue with Adrien not knowing that his father was Monarch isn't that fact itself, but that he doesn't know that he's a Sentimonster and the twin rings are his lifeline. Something that really frustrates me about Yaksi Gozen is the way it uses humor to poke fun at Adrien not knowing the truth. The entire spectacle of Kagami and Felix losing their rings and freaking out, with Marinette trying to help them come up with a lie to explain their panic, and Adrien calmly performing a magic trick to make the rings disappear, not understanding the weight of the situation, is played up for comedy, but is a painful reminder of how dangerous it is that Adrien doesn't know what's going on. When Adrien finds the rings, he's standing on them, and had he been stepping a little bit harder, he could have seriously hurt his friends. On top of this, imagine Adrien loses his own rings in a similar way. Obviously, he would try to look for them because of sentimental value, but doesn't understand how crucial it is to make sure the rings are safe. I would compare Adrien not having this knowledge to someone not knowing they're adopted. Not being biologically related to your parents doesn't make that parent-child relationship any less valid, in the same way that Adrien being a Sentimonster doesn't make him any less of a person, and his general day-to-day life isn't that affected by it. However, if someone never knows that they're adopted and is led to believe they are their parents' biological child, they aren't privy to an accurate family medical history, which could potentially put them in more danger and struggle with finding solutions when problems do arise. Similarly, Adrien not knowing his health and very life are tied to the rings he wears could put him in extreme danger, as he does not fully understand his own body. Not only does this mean Adrien could be more careless with the rings and thus is more susceptible to accidents, but if someone with ill intent tries tries to take the rings to hurt or control him, he doesn't understand the stakes of losing those rings. And this lack of concern has made me consider the possibility of Chrysalis enacting a plan like we see in Yaksi Gozen against Adrien. There is already an incentive for Chrysalis to take control of Adrien, as she could use him to specifically target Marinette. Vague spoiler warning for Heartfixer, but a controlled Adrien could not only spy on Marinette and try to confirm that she's Ladybug, but could be used in the same way that he was in Heartfixer. Unlike in Heartfixer, however, Chrysalis wouldn't need to manipulate circumstances to turn Adrien against Marinette, but could instead force Adrien himself to turn on Marinette permanently. On top of Chrysalis being dead set on proving that Marinette is Ladybug, imagine she finds out that Adrien is Cat Noir. This would make her the only person other than the Kwamis to know that Cat Noir is a Sentimonster, including Cat Noir himself. This gives Chrysalis even more of an incentive to take control of Adrien, as she not only gets to have that spy within the Miraculars like she planned with Félix, but Ladybug's partner and one of the most powerful Miraculous at that. While I'm a bit less inclined to believe this theory because Adrien being a Sentimonster has very much been treated like an afterthought, the plan in Yaksi Gozen paired with Werepapas featuring someone trying to take Adrien's rings from him feels like it could be foreshadowing this possibility. No matter what, it is absolutely crucial that Adrien learns the true nature of his existence as soon as possible, or he could find himself in some serious danger. The only other small thing I want to talk about from this episode is we get more of Adrien and Marinette being adorable. Marinette's little scavenger hunt with the Choquettes in the birdhouse was super sweet, and Adrien struggling to show Marinette how much he loves her in return was so cute as well. Trying and failing to knit and bake something for Marinette, and then turning to Plag's suggestion to get her beef rib was humorous yet adorable. I think part of the reason Marinette lying to Adrien hurt so much is because their relationship is so sweet and strong otherwise, and I am enjoying every little bit of Adrinette that we're getting in season 6 because I fear this happiness is not going to last. I do think Yaksi Gozen is generally a cool episode. Seeing Chrysalis for the first time and her collaboration with Tomoe was really interesting, but the rest of the episode is a frustrating reminder of my least favorite parts of this series, much of which relates to my distaste for season 5 specifically. Did y'all like Yaksi Gozen, or did its issues overshadow your enjoyment of it? Let me know. I will continue to review the season 6 episodes I've yet to cover, so make sure to subscribe to catch those videos when they come out. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a like and hype if you did. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see y'all next time.